Hey Dragons, I want you to take your composition book and let's open it up and let's clean up our table of contents. It's been a while. So go ahead and pause this. Make sure that whenever you're setting this up to use your page numbers, you notice I just started putting blanks here because I think people are just using my numbers. This should all be yours, unique to your composition book. Didn't do a lot with Unit 4. That's the test that we just took. Unit 5 is forms of linear equations. So go ahead and pause and get your table of contents set up. All right, you should have your table of contents set up. We're going to go over here, and wherever you are in your mathematical formulas, I want you to write down the three linear equations. If you would do that right now, go ahead and press pause. Copy down these three forms of linear equations. That's what this unit is mainly about. All right, you should have a handout that I've given you. This will be glued in to Unit 4. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually fill this in, and I'm going to talk about it. So this is kind of exactly what it says is a guided practice for writing forms of equations. So the three equations that I had you write down in your composition book is slope-intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b. Point-slope form, which looks a little different. Y minus y sub 1, we have a subscript, equals your slope times the quantity x minus x sub 1. There's another subscript. It's that little number that's kind of a lower beyond the line that you're writing on. And standard form, ax plus by equals c. So what are these parts of the equation? Well, let's pair them up. Let's talk about slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So these two right here are associated with slope-intercept form. Hopefully you know the answers to this. M is your slope, also known as your rise over run, your rate of change. And b is your y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, so now if we go to this new thing, this point slope, and if you look at the words or the name of the formula, it's exactly what it says. You are given a point on the line and you're giving the slope on the line. Okay, so you notice here, this is going to be the point that we are going to substitute in for. Okay, so this x sub 1 and y sub 1, again sub stands for subscript, this is going to be the point that we know. That's on the line. Okay, and the last form is standard form. Do a little color coding here. Go to A, B, and C. A is the number in front of x, so A is the what's known as the leading coefficient. Remember, coefficients are numbers multiplied by variables. It's called leading because, well, if you look at this equation, it's right at the beginning, so it's leading the way of everything else. Okay, so it's the leading coefficient, and again, it is the coefficient of x. Okay, I'm going to abbreviate coefficient because I'm tired of writing that word out. B is going to be the coefficient of the variable y. Right, and C is the constant. This is a plain old number. All right, so if you need to pause and catch up with me, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to go. All right, there's some rules for standard form. Okay, the numbers A, B, and C are integers. Remember, integers are whole numbers and their opposites. Take a look at the red number line in the classroom. If you've forgotten what the integers are, it's the red dots on that number line. Okay, so no fractions or decimals for those numbers, A, B, and C as well. And the last condition is A and B cannot both be 0. Because if A and B are both 0, we're going to wipe out the X and the Y, and then, well, we don't have a line anymore. And if we're going to wipe out the line, then what's the deal? All right, so again, pause it if you don't have this, and once you're ready to move on, let's do some practice problem. All right. Now, there are some things here that I think there's a misprint. This should be changing not from, we're changing to slope-intercept in standard form. And we're going to do the same thing down here on problem number 2. Okay. So, the majority of the things that we're going to do in this unit is we're going to be given information of the line. Okay? And if you're given a point on the and a slope on the line, it's best to start with the point slope form. Okay? Now, if you remember from up here, the ones with the subscripts, okay, this is going to be the ones that we substitute in for. Okay? So, do we know a point? Yes, we do. There's my point. We know the X and the Y coordinate is -1 and -3. So we're going to plug in for the guys with the subscripts. Okay? Now, one of the easiest way to mess this up is to put the -1 right here. Well, guess what? That -1 is not a Y, it's an X. So just be careful. Okay? So that -1 is going to go right there. And that -3 is going to go right there. And look what I'm going to do now. Everything else in the formula, I'm just going to transfer it down. I'm going to transfer down the y and the minus sign, and then the equal. And then my slope. Do I know the slope? It's right there. Why do you think they call it point slope? They got to give me the slope. -2, and then x, and then a minus, and then close the parentheses. Now here's another thing students get messed up on here, is when they're subtracting a negative. Now, if you remember from middle school, if you subtract a negative, that's the same thing as adding a positive. So let's clean up what I call the double signs. I have subtracting a negative. That's what I call a double sign. And it's really confusing. So anytime you see double signs, subtracting a negative, I just want you to make it look nice and elementary. Let's make it a plus sign. See how much neater that looks? Instead of minus and negative, let's just say plus. And we can do the same thing right here. Okay? And so now, again, what is our goal? Our goal is to get it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So basically, we're going to solve for y. Got to get rid of the parentheses by distributing, so -2 times x is -2x, and a -2 times a +1 is a -2. And we're one step away. The only thing I need to do to isolate y is to subtract 3 from both sides. Remember your 0 pairs, that's a 0 pair. So y is now by itself. So y equals a -2x. There's my mx, and now these two guys I'm able to combine. What's a -2 minus 3? It's a -5. Alright? So I've got it in standard form. Slope-intercept form, excuse me. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and put it in standard form. Standard form simply means that the x and the y term are on the same side. Alright, so all I got to do here, it's actually pretty simple. What I need to do, alright, I need to finish this up because I'm already at 10 minutes. YouTube doesn't like videos more than 10 minutes. But I'm almost done with this problem. So if I make that a 0, if I want to move this to the other side, I've got to make this a 0 pair, so the opposite of minus 2x is plus 2x. So I'm going to add 2x there, and what I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay, so now what do I have? I have 2x and a y, so that's 2x plus y. That's 0, and so the only thing left there is negative 5. And if you notice, ax plus by equals c, and let's get in the habit of identifying a, b, and c. A is going to be 2, the coefficient of x. B is going to be a 1. Remember, if you don't see a coefficient, it's an understood 1. And c is going to be a negative 5. So if I want to graph this thing, I'll go down to a y-intercept of negative 5, and I have a slope of negative 2, up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1. And then if I draw my line, okay, so do I go through negative 1, negative 3? Yes, I do. Do I have a slope of negative 2? Yes, I do. All right, go on to part 2.